Hello and welcome, fellow bugs of Hollow Nest and Farloom. If you're like me and you've played Hollow Knight in the past, you guys are also probably playing Silksong. Spoilers ahead for both games, as I wanted to share the process of me making my Hollow Knight Sona. But I also have to share the frustrations that it has been dying over and over again because the boss fights get so close and then there's something unexpected on the screen or I hit the wrong button at the wrong time. And also how absolutely adorable these little creepers are. Just listen to them. In order to proceed in this game, I most definitely had to get down! But like every individual's journey throughout this game, especially when you get that final victory strike, the adrenaline rush wears off, and your sweaty hands can finally set down the controller that you've been death gripping for the last 6 hours. Or maybe that's just me. It is so satisfying when you go from one level to the next, essentially, new areas unlocked, new skills, and fun little trinkets that you find along the way, new NPCs to talk to. And the idea that both the Knight and Hornet end up sort of cataloging a lot of who they come across in a little journal is fascinating to me. I made my Hollow Knight Sona based off of just kind of like a sort of self-insert situation, but more for the exploration aspect of it, because there is many things from both Hollow Nest and Farloom that I enjoy, and though I haven't explored all of Farloom, I have explored enough where I am in Act 2. I have mostly defeated everything in Hollow Nest and Hollow Knight, but I still have yet to do things like the Path of Pain, but I have at least gotten up to, I don't remember what the area is called, but with the bees. I have beaten the bees, if that counts for anything. I've gotten about that far with most of the stuff and have almost every single charm. I am missing, I think, 3 or 4 of them, so hopefully for anyone who has beaten the game, that gives you some context. But for the general bug type idea, I wasn't sure if it would be more just like a general hybrid or just beetle-like, but that's what I was aiming for my Sona. I have also made 2 OCs that you will see later on in this video where I get to share a fun little story about them. So for my Hollow Knight Sona, I don't know if I'm just going to keep it being Stencil Fox for all universe sakes, because I'd like to imagine that there is technically a Stencil Fox in every universe of different kinds. I have my own Sonic Sona and other self-insert characters from many different things, but I also have other characters that are separate. I like to imagine the difference between an OC and a Sona is that the Sona is very representative of the person behind it, the one who's making it, and a way for me to visually show myself on the screen with like a little character sprite. That's the fun part of it. Separate from an OC who has lore and other traits that are separate from things that I would do and wouldn't do kind of things. So there are some things that the OCs would do that I would not do, and vice versa, where there may be some things that I would do that these OCs would not do. As far as my Sona for Hollow Knight, I'm not sure how far they could get through either Farloom or Hollow Nest, but I'd like to imagine that they document things through a little notebook that they carry around with them, similar to me, where I like to draw, I like to have little journals to write down thoughts, and probably combining the two into a little journal that they could carry around in their little, like, pockets. I don't really know as far as the height, how tall they would be, but they are definitely not as tall as the Hollow Knight. I'm not talking about the Knight, I'm talking about the Hollow Knight. In height order, I like to imagine that some of the bigger bugs are as tall as the Hollow Knight, then you have the medium-sized bugs who are closer to Hornet's height, and then the Knight who just small. Just small. I'm not talking about like super teeny tiny little bugs either though, because I do know that there are some absolutely adorable but also annoying little enemies like the Aspid hatchling. They are tiny, but they're also annoying. But not as annoying as the Squirt. Oh, sorry, the Squit. Squit is one of the little, like, dart enemies that flings itself at you in the game. But there are many, many creatures throughout both the Hollow Nest and Farloom that I adore. I also like the little nods in Hornet's, like, little journal entry about the fact that she loves all the fluffy ones. And she notes that some of them would be perfect as pets if they didn't have the spikes on them, or wants to pet them, but their shells that they're covered with, like bells and spikes, is just a detractor. It makes her kind of just like sad or upset that she can't pet them. Same thing with how I'm pretty sure that, just like me, she doesn't really like some of the ones where she thinks they're friendly, but they're not friendly. I also like to imagine that she finds many of them, like the warden flies, to be just absolutely disgraceful, disgusting creatures. I do like some of the, like, NPCs that she runs into, that if they are giving her too much trouble, she just happily backhands them to put them in their place of, like, please stop. right now. Be grateful I do not stabbeth thee. I also just like to imagine, from my own perspective, if I ran into some of these NPCs, I'd probably just scuttle away. I'd just run away, just be like, nope, not dealing with this today. Same thing with certain boss fights. If I knew a boss fight was up ahead and I could hear that boss music, I'd just be like, opposite direction, immediately finding another pathway, and eventually toughen it out. As far as the shade that my character has when, like, the masks are all broken, that's just a technical temporary thing, just because I couldn't think of anything in particular, because for Hornet's case, they have, like, a cocoon of silk that's the remainder for it, but I don't know if all of the bugs, so to speak, have something like this if they perish, because others just straight up perish and their body just lays there on the screen. Not taking into account when the area resets, I'm not really thinking too hard about that aspect of it, but there are also the ones that are infected where the body still carries on. I would like to imagine that my character would try to avoid infection as much as possible when traveling throughout different areas. Same thing with later on in, like, Farloom, trying to avoid certain strange behaviors coming from some of the little, like, bugs that you run across, where I'm not really sure the types of jobs that all these bugs have, but if there are cleaners and sentries and the carriers who do deliveries, some of them are just doing their job on repeat mindlessly, where others have, like, conversations with you. I'd like to imagine that my Hollow Knight Sona would like to find others to talk to, but would probably, just for safety's sake, to avoid any unintentional fights, would probably just ignore most of the bugs unless they came to them first, but they would document it. Hence, where I'm leading to them documenting the story of Mayfly and Scratch. So Mayfly is older by, like, a lot. Like, I don't really know how bug years work, but I'd like to say that they've been around since the beginning of most of the creation of where, like, the Hollow Nest and Farloom kind of came from. They've seen a lot of history, but they stay in one area, so they are kind of sheltered in that regard, but they are experienced and are wise to some things that they have seen and heard through others who pass by and share that knowledge with them. They're also not helpless or naive by any means, and the old age has not slowed them down by any kind of stance. They know all the dangers, and they know that if they didn't have their needle weapon to protect themselves, they could easily end up like some of the, like, infected ones, or just in general, if they're not, like, keeping themselves aware, they could end up losing their home, because there are still some dangerous creatures in some of the areas. Scratch ends up finding Mayfly at some point, and they are hardened by travels where everywhere they've gone they have unfortunately encountered all of the bad events happening, where infection led to all of the friends and family they had just being gone, some of which they had to end of their own accord to put them out of their misery, so to speak. They found a Weaverling that would not leave them alone, and the Weaverling travels protecting them, and vice versa, they protect the Weaverling. They found a key that they use as a weapon as their only means to travel when they ended up upon giant locked gates that wouldn't open without it, and they traveled far and wide until they met Mayfly. Opposites in different ways. They didn't understand how somebody could stay in one place and put their foot down so much so that they end up defending their home and never traveling, because eventually it could be gone too, just like their previous home. Scratch has been through many different homes, but they're still also much younger than Mayfly. Mayfly has experienced a couple of lifetimes of bugs where they feel like they're just going to end up outliving a lot of them, so they want to stay where they're comfortable instead of traveling and ending up having to start all over again somewhere else. But Scratch doesn't really understand that, and from my Sona's perspective, they are traveling mostly just so that they can stay alive, but they also stay in different areas that they kind of have little huts for safety. My Sona would end up kind of not understanding what to do, besides the fact that they wouldn't be choosing any one way or the other. They wouldn't be giving them advice of, like, you should travel or you should stay. They would just tell them to do what they think is best for them, and the fact that their paths had crossed must be some kind of sign or fate of something. Whether it means much for the long term or the short term, it's the fact that they ended up meeting in the first place that, for my Sona, they jot down as something that could still be marked down in history if someone ends up finding their little journal that they've had, and both Mayfly and Scratch can appreciate that somebody does know their stories and can share it even after all of them and many of the bugs are long gone, because they don't really know. Both of them understand. Mayfly has experienced it through many losses in the small areas that they've been in, and Scratch has seen it far and wide, but they don't really want to give up on their journeys. So it's kind of just left up to interpretation thus far, are. I like to imagine that if I was to make a little comic, it would be very short and simple, or if I was to write this down a bit more detailed, kind of like a narration story of it, it would be a bit more smooth than the general ramblings of the skeleton of a story that I have shared with you now, but do let me know what you guys think of Mayfly Scratch and my Hollow Knight Sona. Like with many of my previous videos, I don't think I will have a specific continuation of this anytime soon, but on my other social medias where I make my illustrations, comics, and other fun little ideas, you can see more of Mayfly Scratch and my Hollow Knight Sona as I illustrate them, but because time is short and Halloween is fast approaching for next month, get ready for Sketchtober. I'll be sharing the prompts list, and if you would like to join in, please feel free to tag me when you make the illustration. The actual Sketchtober video will be posted towards the end of the month so you guys can see my double sketchbook spread, because that's part of my challenge for the Sketchtober for this year, for myself. But I'm going to be doing it in a story format, so from day 1 to 31 is going to all connect and make a fun little story, and that way you guys can participate and join along. Even if you only do one day, I'd love to feature it in the Subscribblers Gallery and see what you guys come up with for similar prompts. I will also be doing another of the Luxus videos, but instead of an animatic or an animation, I'm going to be doing some voice-acted assistance with my friend Chibi Joe, who voices Luxus, where I will be doing a YouTube-sized comic where it'll be able to fit the screen and I can zoom in on the panels and add fun little sound effects, so look forward to that spookiness for next month. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to join the Subscribblers Squad to never miss an upload. While you wait for the next upload, check out some of the playlists. If you'd like to see your fan artwork featured in the Subscribblers Gallery, tag me in it, as I love getting to see what you guys can create and sharing it to others on the channel. My card link is below, and if you'd like to further support this channel with exclusive Patreon rewards, Fennec Foxes for £2 a month gets you access to all of my work-in-progress sketches. Arctic Foxes for £5 a month gets you access to exclusive Patreon-only content, art videos, and comic pages early. Red Foxes for £10 a month gets your name read out at the end of the videos, just like this. Special thank you to Frankie Jr. 13. Stay possum, Subscribblers.